Alrighty, so here we are, we're going to do our demo. I've created a folder here called cookies. This is Visual Studio Code. If you haven't seen this before, this is a pretty common tool for development. This doesn't really matter. It's just making sure that the browser isn't going to throw a fit and that people don't throw a fit in the comments. And we'll just add a title here as well. So I'm going to call it code size cookies. Save. Alrighty. Bottom of my body file, I will include my script tag, the source. It's going to be index.js. Close that tag. In index.js for now, we're just going to log hello world just to prove that it's working. Make sure everything's working on that side before we start implementing some of our cookies. Alrighty, save this. I'm going to come over to my terminal now. So you can see here I'm in my cookies folder. I have a package I use called local web server, which means I can, local web server, if I just type WS, it's going to fire up a little web server. Here we go. So I've loaded this up now. We've got code size cookies. We're on localhost 8000. This is running through local web server. If you need to install this, you can just go yarn local web server. Again, if you're not following along for the code portion of that doesn't matter. It just means that our files are going to load correctly. If you're using npm, you can also do npm install local web server. You might need to do that globally just to make sure that thing is working and available across your different projects. Very handy little tool. So now let's have a look at what we can do with our cookie. First, let's have a look at setting and then displaying some cookies. So let's open up our JavaScript file and get rid of this bit. We can do this in a couple of ways. One, we have a library we can use called JS Cookie, which I think is going to be the best way of doing this. This will be a really simple way to set cookies and then retrieve them as well. You can do this without a library, so let's do that first, just so you can see what it looks like. And as I type this out, you'll probably see the reason why we don't do it as in a professional sense. So I'm just going to we'll call it constant. We're going to call it cookie value. This value is going to be username equals Nick. Okay. And then we're going to use document.cookie equals cookie value. So what we've done here, we've just created a constant with this value username Nick, and then we're setting document.cookie to equal that. As I mentioned before, a cookie is a key value pair. So we've got a username here, which is our key, and then Nick, which is our value. And it's just an equal sign here that is assigning that. We load this again. If I inspect, so what I've done here, I've right click, inspect. If I come over to application over here, this is Chrome DevTools. Again, if you're not a technical person, don't stress about this stuff. But this is one way you can see your cookies. So right click, inspect, hop over to application. If you've run projects in your browser before on localhost, all of those cookies will be stored. But if we're looking here, we've got localhost 8000, we've got cookies on the left-hand side under storage. You've also got local storage and session storage. But today we're looking at cookies, and we've got our username and the value is Nick. The expires is session, so it'll last as long as we keep the browser going. The important bit is we've got a key and a value. And just to show you that it's all real, we can change this. We're going to change the username to code size. We're going to refresh the page, and you can see here the value is updated as well. And so this cookie is being set every time you refresh the page, it's loading. What we're going to do is we're going to import a library called JS Cookie. This is available on GitHub. You can grab it. I'm just going to add a little comment here, so setting cookies. And then we've got our JS Cookie library. So this is one way we've used the browser. And then if we open up this page here, this is the JS Cookie project. It will make it a lot simpler to work with cookies. It works across browsers, so browsers can implement their own way of handling cookies. When we're using a library like this, it means that we can rely just on whatever the library is doing and trust that the open source community is going to make sure that the project works. Down here, we can use a CDN to do this. So I'm going to hop over to the CDN down here. If we were using this for our own project, we'd probably add it to our package.json. Again, we're going to take some shortcuts here just because it's not a serious project that we're working on. We're just having a good time. So here, I've just clicked on the minified version here. I'm going to grab this, pop back over to my HTML file, and then just above our index script. So we're going to do the same thing again. Script source equals this string here. And we close up our script tag. Yep. And here we go. We can see here JS cookie min with a whole bunch of JavaScript in there. So this is getting a little bit closer to how we would work on this kind of thing in the real world. Let's have a look at what it looks like if we want to set some cookies using this library. This comes through the cookies variable. So we go cookies dot set, and we're going to set a value here. For today, we can set YouTube channel, and then we're going to set the value to be code size. And so here you can see we're doing the same thing we were doing up here. So we've got a key, which is in this case YouTube channel. Before it was username, and then we've got a value, which is code size. Here you've got separate parameters here, and the library will take care of whatever the browser actually does for it. Coming back over here, we can hop into our application section again. Refresh the page, we've got YouTube %20 channel, and then quota size. So the %20 there is the HTML entity for a space. So it's probably better if we use like a hyphen or something. And now you can see here, we've got multiple values. If you're playing around with this during this demo, there's a little icon up here, which has got these 3 lines and a little, call that like a no entry sign. It'll say clear all cookies. You can click that, or you can click the X to delete selected cookies. So here we go, we can just delete these out. As we refresh the page, they'll all appear back in there. Alrighty, so that is setting cookies. Next, what we will want to do is set them using like a form. So in this case, we could be doing something like authentication. User could be logging in, we want to set their username, we want to maybe set their like group, these sort of things. I will emphasize right now that you should not store anything sensitive to your application in cookies that can be edited by the user. For example, you don't want to do something like have a permissions cookie, which is set to like user, and then we're like, oh, okay, the permissions is a user, we'll show them the user thing. And then the user comes into application, double clicks on value and changes it to admin. And then now they have admin permissions to your application. That's really bad. That's a really simple way to have someone get too many permissions in your applications. Anything that is in the cookies here can be changed and edited by the user. So make sure that anything you're storing is verified somewhere else, and that if it gets like stolen by like maybe they've got a dodgy extension that pulls cookies out of an application, or you're just like doing something like I've done here with permissions, just make sure that the user changes it, or if a malicious person changes it, that it's not going to break everything for you. We're going to get rid of that because that's a bad habit. Let's make a form where the user can put in a cookie name and a cookie value and then submit a cookie to our page. We'll make a new section here. We're going to call this add a cookie. We're going to have a form. I'll give it an ID of add cookie form. I know what you're saying. Why don't you just use React or Vue or some amazing library? The issue is that's not the purpose of the tutorial. We're going to keep it really simple right now and just use some basic HTML. Do things the old-fashioned way. Here I'm just going to create a text input. It's going to be text. Its ID is going to be add cookie name. Name is going to be, you guessed it, cookie name, and the placeholder. But you know this one, it's cookie name. All right, we're going to do the same again, but we are going to change all these names. We're going to change them to be value, and value. And then we're just going to have a button down here, which is going to be a submit button, and the text is going to be add cookie. So as we come back to our page now, we have add a cookie, cookie name, cookie value. I can put things in here right now. I'm going to hit submit and nothing's going to happen. The reason nothing happens is I haven't done anything for the back end of the form yet. So let's do that now. I go to index.js again. Now that I'm here, we're going to create a variable for our cookie form. So cookie form equals document, get element by ID, which is going to be add cookie form. We're also going to add an event listener to our cookie form. So it's going to be on submit. We're going to grab the event using this little arrow function here. We're going to prevent default because we want this to all happen on the page. We don't want a full page refresh, which is the default behavior. Key name is going to be document.get element by ID. Add cookie name. Again, we're doing things maybe in not the cleanest, best way, but here we're just going to show how cookies are used and different things you can do with them. If you're following along with me right now, you'll see that this is sort of that faded appearance. The reason for that is we're not using that value yet. We're going to use our cookies library again, so cookies.set. Here we're going to use our backticks and some string interpolation, cookie name dot value, and then we're going to set cookie value dot value. Once that's done, we set the values back to 0, empty string. So let's have a look at what we're doing here. When someone submits the form, which we added over here, we stop the page from refreshing. We get the two values. So we get the value for cookie name, cookie value, and that's based off the ID of that element. If you look over here, we've got our ID cookie name, ID cookie value, getting whatever is in those text boxes at that time. Next, we use the JS cookie library to set the value here, and then to set the name of the cookie, and then we set the value of the cookie to be whatever is in cookie value. We're using the word value a lot here. That is also the value of the text input. So there's a difference between cookie name and cookie value, but both of those things have a value attribute. See if our form works. We're going to refresh the page. We've got our cookie filters open here. I'm going to add new cookie. It's going to be my cookie name. And my cookie value is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4. We come up here, we hit add cookie. You'll see that this didn't load or it didn't change anything. Let's hit this refresh button here, and we've got new cookie 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can do this again. Another cookie, my value. I hit add cookie. I refresh my cookies, and here we are. We've got my value. We've got new cookie 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see here as well, if we're refreshing the page, these cookies are staying. They're not going anywhere. This is the power of a cookie. If you're using an application or you're creating an application that has a lot of uses across different pages, you want to keep that data. You want to be able to know what your user's up to across different pages. You want to be able to know what they've done. Maybe you want to have information on one page relies on data from another page. And that is where our cookies, our local storage and our session storage can really come in and save the day there. Because if I delete everything and I refresh the page, we've only got our 2 original cookies. So we've lost that other data. So there's no way for the page to know sort of what the user has done. Okay, so now let's have a look at retrieving our cookie. We've put them in the browser. We've got a form that lets us add more values into the browser, but now we want to get them back out. So we're going to make a list element, and we're just going to list out every cookie we've got in the browser for our page. One thing you'll notice as I've done this is that you can't retrieve cookies from another page or from another site. So I can retrieve any cookie related to localhost, cannot retrieve cookies related to facebook.com or somewhere else. That is intentional by the browsers. We don't want to be able to just like retrieve data from anywhere, do whatever we want with it. However, saying that, if I had a script loaded onto someone else's page, I might be able to read data out of their cookies. And that's where that third-party tracking and third-party cookies that you might have read about in the news with like iOS getting rid of them, really affecting things like e-commerce, Facebook, social tracking, things like that. Yeah. And that is where some of the nastier sides of cookies can come in, where users don't really know where their data is going. For our purpose, though, we're using first-party cookies here, and we are the intended user of the cookies. We're also creating them, so our user can hopefully trust us. And all of our cookies are functional cookies as well. They actually do something. So we're going to add another section here. We've got our H2 for view cookies. And here we're just going to have an unordered list. And I'm going to give it an ID of cookie list. Now we have our list of cookies. We've got header and the list. We come back to our JavaScript file over here, and we're going to create a new section here. We'll add a little comment saying retrieving cookies. We will create a constant for our cookie list to live in, which is going to be called cookie list, element by ID, cookie list. All right, so the value of this constant will be related to this on unordered list over here. Next, we are just going to use object keys. So the JS cookie library's got this get functionality. So you just put in cookies.get and you will be able to retrieve every cookie for your current domain. So we're going to use that. We're going to map over that, and we're going to use the cookies here. So for each cookie, we're going to go cookie list in a HTML equals cookie list dot in a HTML plus li cookies.get. Let's have a look at what this code does. So we set our value for cookie list, which is related to the get element ID of cookie list. So that's our HTML over here, which is currently an empty list. Next, we get the name of every cookie in our browser for this localhost 8,000 domain values here. Once that is done, go through that entire list and we get the current cookie list HTML. So that starts off as an empty list, and then we append li, which is list item. We append the cookie name, and then we get that cookie using the JS cookies library. What does this look like? When we refresh the page, we can see we've got our view cookies header. We've got username, code size, YouTube channel, code size. If I add another value in here, my value, 1234, I add cookie. You'll notice it doesn't happen straight away. We're not checking that immediately. But if I refresh the page, now we've got my value 1234. And we can do this again, value, add cookie. Now we refresh the page again, we've got more. And we can just keep on populating this list forever. And you'll be able to see that this list in here reflects the values up here. Now that that's done, we need a way to remove cookies. Create a new section of our JavaScript file. We're going to call this removing cookies. First, create a little button over here. We will add another H2, which can be reset cookies. And we're going to add a button, which is set cookies. This again is using an ID on this button. If we look over at the HTML, we have another section here, reset cookies. I can click this button all day. It's not going to do anything because we haven't tied up the functionality yet. So back to index.js. In our removing cookies section, let's get the button, which we called reset cookies. We're going to add an event listener to that, which will be a click event. We're going to grab that event there, and we're going to go object.keys, keys.get. So we're going to get all cookies same way we were rendering out that list. We're going to use the same functionality there. We're going to get the cookie value again, and then we are going to log that cookie name so we can see it in the console. And then we're going to use cookies.remove the cookie. Alrighty, so what is this doing? We get that button. Anytime someone clicks it, we will grab all the cookies. We're going to log out that cookie name. So each individual cookie will look at each cookie name, and then we will be using the remove function here to be able to remove that cookie. Let's have a look at what that looks like in the browser. Refreshing our page again. I'm just going to clear that string off because I don't think we need it anymore. We can add some values to our form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, add cookie. Refresh, we can see that all of our cookies are here. Reset cookies button, which is going to delete all of this. Reset cookies, I'm going to refresh this list of cookies here, and you can see they're all gone. Now, when I refresh the page, we're going to have 2 cookies added back in, which will be username and YouTube channel. The reason those get added in is they are up here at the top of the file. But I refresh and everything else is gone. We can just do this again and again for as long as we want. That's how we can clear our cookies. This is all well and good. We've shown how to add them, how to remove them, how to update them, all of this. And so let's now look at actually doing something with a cookie. What's the use for cookies? I'm going to create another section in my little file down here. So we're going to say use a cookie to do something. That's what we want to do. Let's make an if statement. I'm going to say if cookies.get background. Okay, cookie name is background. If that exists, we're going to do document.body.style.background color equals cookies.get background. What does this mean? This means if there is ever a cookie with the name background, we're going to get whatever is in that value, and then we are going to set the page background to be that color. So here we are, we've got two cookies, username quota size, YouTube channel quota size. We're going to set just a generic cookie here, 5678, okay, there it is. We can update this value. There we go, we've seen our value update. This is not doing anything though, right? Let's add background. I'll put in a hex code now. If I refresh the page, here we've got a different background color style in here. Yeah, I don't think you can see that on the screen. So we're gonna add a background in that'll be a little bit more shocking for you. I'm gonna put in a hex code. So here we can see we've put in hash 333, and then now that has made the background color of the page this sort of darker color. We can keep doing this. We can keep changing this. We can call it background. We can go red. I'm gonna refresh the page again. Now it's red. If we keep refreshing the page, that value sticks. Background, we can go like maybe D99. 8300. Who knows what this color is? There it is, we've got a nice mustard here. You can see here, this is where the power of cookies starts to come in. So the user has been able to choose their own background color, and now that attribute will follow them through the site. So whether they're on this page, they go to another page, whatever it is, that value will still stick there.